Ooh, that was a good one. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Dolphins Daily, your daily dose of Dolphins content with me, Chris Kane. Let's talk about the Dolphins. So, the NFL in the offseason is always trying to find ways to make headlines. Let's be honest, they just want to stay in the news cycle forever. They do it with cap talk, they do it with offseason stuff, they do it with franchise tags, drafts, offseason conditioning, hard knocks. They're always in the news, right? So, sometimes things that you have never heard of before just come out of woodworks. This is one of those things. Apparently, the NFL did a grading system of how teams performed last year, right? So, as you can assume, the number one team was Philadelphia. They won a championship. They got an A plus, best above all the teams, right? But there were 15 teams that got a D or below. Miami was one of them. Miami got a D plus grade, which I don't love. I don't love D pluses. That feels like it should have been a C minus, right? Like if you got a D plus, my fam, just like bump me up. Let me feel good about myself. Don't A D plus is disrespectful. It's like, hey, you were bad, but you were almost below average. Almost, but still bad. But not an F though, because a D almost feels like a D minus, which almost feels like an F. But D plus is like, oh, you was almost not good. That's what a D plus feels like. I don't love it. I don't love it. Now, they do take into consideration the grading dealt with a lot of injuries, but this factors in management, draft picks, and coaching. So it isn't just the performance on the field. So it'd be different if like Miami had a really great draft, but like maybe those players just didn't play a lot, and it was okay, cool. You got some players to develop. They're saying front office failed, coach failed, and injuries. I don't know if this is fair. We've talked about this many times on the channel. I think most things come down to injury, right? We saw Detroit this year. Detroit flying high. I think they were 10 and 1, 11 and 1 ish, and then just the wheels. Player after player after player after player started getting hurt. Almost all from the defense, too. And what happened is they somehow still got the one seed because of just great coaching by Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson and them. But, and of course, Man Campbell. But they did all that, and then they got to the playoffs, and what happened? Defense got obliterated. And people were like, yeah, and a lot of those guys were hurt. It's like, yeah, they've been hurt for 6 weeks. It's just, but does anyone think they weren't coached well? Sometimes injuries can undermine even a great coaching and great front office season. So the grade may not be inaccurate because it also kind of factors in what the projection was. So a team like Denver got an A minus, but Denver had two more wins than Miami. So like 2 wins is not worth 2.5 letter grades. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not how that works. But when you assume the Broncos would win 4 or 5 games and then they win 10, then it's like, oh, you really shot past expectations. Miami was in the playoffs last year. Miami won 10 games last year. So they go below that is kind of part of it as well. So I don't know if the grade is like fully fair. Um, I just really wanted that C minus. Like I never thought I'd be begging for a C minus before, but when I saw a D plus, I'm like, a C minus would make me feel a little bit better about the season that we just had. Like I don't. D plus makes you want to just like not be a fan. That's brutal, or just not give that judging body any credence. But it is what it is. This is again more motivation for next year. Fight through it, punch through it. Next year, let's try to get up to the A class. All right. So we've been doing a lot of talk about the backup quarterback situation. We talked about guys like Mariota. You know, I went fishing for some Mariota. I still want Mariota on his teams. I still want Mariota, but we'll see what happens. Now, recently, the idea got floated that maybe Miami should consider signing Mac Jones to be the backup. I know collectively some people just took a side and almost turned the episode off. As soon as I said Mac Jones, some of y'all said, you know what, I'm going to tune into the next episode. He don't get me again with this backup quarterback talk. I understand. I know Mac and Cheese lost some of y'all this year. It was bad. I seen it. I got family in Jacksonville. It was rough. He had Brian Thomas and it was rough. I get it. But we've seen good Mac before. Forget Mac's for a rookie year. He made the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? You can say what you want about whatever. They had Matt Patricia calling offense, who's his whole career been a defensive coordinator, and they won 10 games and made it to the playoffs. So we've seen Mac be good. We've seen Mac be average. And we've seen trash Mac. Now, unfortunately, we most recently saw trash Mac. Personally, I like macaroni and cheese. I don't know if I like Mac Jones. All right? I'm just going to say that. Trash Mac I don't know. But here's the thing. He's been to his backup before. He's a local dude. He's going to be cheap, and there's no threat for him to take Tua's job. Because on some level, you want your backup quarterback to not really be a threat to the quarterback. This is why guys like Cam Newton couldn't really be anybody's backup, because at some point people be like, I kind of want to see Cam on the field, right? So Mac could be a backup. He is, at the very least, he's a serviceable NFL backup quarterback, right? He's probably like not as he's in that Kenny Pickett bubble, you know. But I saw Kenny Pickett this year when Justin Fields, not Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts went out. Wow, when Jalen Hurts got hurt, Kenny Pickett came in. It was okay. He was okay. If Mac is an okay backup who's cheap, who knows Tua, he's still young, is that the worst thing in the world? Because we could overreach for a draft pick with a completely unproven person that will also be relatively cheap, but I guess has upside, or know exactly what you guys back up. That guy is going to throw for 174 yards, one touchdown, one pick, and if we get him field goal position late in the game, we can get the dub. That's mac and cheese, baby. That's mac and cheese. Like, hey, that boy not going to go out there and give you 404 tutties. That's not mac and cheese. That boy, buck 70, one tud, one pick, and if you get lucky, you might get 2 touchdowns. Now, there will be that game where he throws 0 touchdowns and 9 picks. That's going to happen. You got to live with that with mac and cheese. We know what it is. But it's not the worst possible option if you're making the decision thinking we're going to reuse our assets differently. Like, if we get to the point where we draft an O-lineman in the first round or Malachi Starks in the first round, and then we come back around and an O-lineman that we thought would be off the board is on the board now, but so is Jalen Milroe, get the O-lineman. So that means that the next quarterback that comes around, I don't know, it's like some dude from Appalachian State. Then is Mac worse than that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if we can build the team in different places, we don't need Mac to be as good. That Jacksonville team wasn't good this year. They weren't good with Trevor Lawrence. So I don't know how bad Mac really was because they weren't good with Trevor, who allegedly is great. So I'm not saying I'm a Mac defender. I'm just saying I don't hate the idea as much as like it seems ridiculous, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. And finally, I was unaware of this fact until this morning. Coach McDaniel was entering his 4th season with the Dolphins, and the last 2 coaches, Adam Gase and Brian Flores, both got fired in their 4th season. Neither one finished their 4th year. So the question is there pressure on Coach McDaniel to, 1, have a good year, but 2, is he kind of on the hot seat to finish the year? We've had temperamental ownership. We've had a fan base that wants to win. Like, we'll give you 3, but once that 4th year starts going sideways, people want to pull the ripcord. There aren't really great coaches like on the market currently, but you know, OCs pop up and college coaches pop up. So there's no one like waiting in the wing. This is not like a Mike Vrabel situation where he's just available and you can just hire him, right? The ownership group and the GMs have been very loyal to Coach McDaniel. I do think in year 4, this can't be an excuse year. That's what I think. I think they're expecting, hey, we're going to have a good draft pick. We have a number of picks. You got your quarterback back. We're going to rebuild the O-line. Defense should be good. We need something. Like, I think worst case scenario, Miami is what they were this year. Injuries, kind of coached through a 500 team. I think if that happens again, it's a possibility he doesn't finish the season. If he wins 10 games and they get to the playoffs and lose again, I don't think he gets fired. I think they feel like, hey, maybe we're just going against like those top 4 Goliaths, because if Miami gets in, we're most likely not going to be the 1 seed. So you're going to be, and if it's been Buffalo winning the division, so basically Miami's between the 5 and the 7 seed, which means in the first round you're playing either Houston, Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City. So the idea that maybe we're just not as good as those teams, I think is a reasonable thought. I would bet all 4 of those teams are better than Miami right now. But if Miami somehow wins the division, and let's say we play a team like, I don't know, Pittsburgh or, you know, Jacksonville, for God's sakes, in the first round, and then we lose, or like the Chargers. That can be a real matchup, Miami v. Chargers. And then you lose to that team, I think people start saying, all right, coach may not be the person. So I don't believe he's on a hot seat. I do think there should be an urgency to have a good year. I do think 4 years is a reasonable amount of time to win. Um, I don't want him to go because I think he's a good coach, but I do think there should be pressure. I do think he finishes the year. That's my bold prediction right now. I think Miami wins at least 10 games next year. I'm also betting on health, and I'm guessing he finishes his 4th year. But let me know in the comments what you think. And thank you guys for tuning in once again at Dolphins Daily. We appreciate your time, your love and support, likes and subscribes, all that good stuff. We'll see you next time on Dolphins Daily. Peace.